Hey, let's learn React. So why do we need React and what is it? So a huge problem when you're writing vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is it takes a very long time. It's incredibly time consuming and it's also really messy. So what Facebook's done is they've developed this set of functions and classes and all this code that pretty much makes it so writing JavaScript, HTML, and CSS together is a lot more structured and it's a lot quicker. And that's what React is. It's just the library of code and functions that help us write our app. Okay, so there's three parts of React, main parts of React that we have to know: components, props, and state. And you're gonna see that components, they're pretty much reusable parts of HTML. So you can have with CSS. So you can have a Navbar component, uh, a main component, a like a button component. It's yeah, reusable things of HTML, but they can be more complicated and stuff. And it's with CSS and JavaScript. And these components, they can have data inside them. So true, false, just like how we saw in JavaScript. But you can pass it down either externally, you'll see what that is, which is props, or you can have internal data that's part of the component, and that's state. So let's code, let's learn React. All right, let's code some React. So before we start coding React, we need to get the code from React. And that's where Node.js comes in. We're going to use Node.js for a backend too eventually. So download Node.js so we can get the React code using the Node package manager, which is how we get it, npm. So I'm going to open my terminal. You can use your command line, whatever you have. I'm going to go to my desktop, cd desktop. Then your first React is npx create React app. npx create React app. Call this practice, and it'll create a basic boilerplate React app inside here. Awesome. Nice job, guys. So I'm going to take VS Code. I'm going to drag our React app into VS Code. And I'm going to open up the terminal and do a new terminal to open it up. Or this, there's a shortcut too on the right hand side. I'm going to type in yarn, or you can do npm start. That's npm, that's what we installed the node. Cool, so it's opening up our React, our basic React boilerplate. Let's look at this for a second. So let's go to package.json. Scripts, we can see we use the npm start script, and the npm start script does this. That's what it does. Scripts are just, you can name a thing you want and then it'll run this long code. That's it. And you type it into the terminal. So here's some other data, dependencies. This is the code that we wanted to grab from npm. React also needs React DOM and React strips. So our dependencies, our packages, libraries, whatever you want to call it, name, version, yeah, but you really need to know the scripts and the dependencies. And your dependencies are stored here in this node modules folder. So let's learn the basic structure of a React app. Let's go to index.html. And there's a lot of junk here. This doesn't really do anything. It's PNG stuff, meta tags. This is also kind of junk here that you really don't need to know for now. Now this is important. this stuff in the body and no script. If there's no script, no JavaScript enabled, you need to JavaScript. And this is important, the div with the ID of root. So keep that in mind. Let's go to the src folder. Alright, and we can see document.getElementById root. And that is the same name as this, root. So we're getting the root element. An index again. And then we're rendering this app component inside the root, inside the div. So that's what we're doing. We're rendering a component inside a div. And React, the React is doing that with this React render. Okay, so let's look at app really quick. You can see there's all this HTML here, this return stuff. Inside this return stuff, this is where your HTML goes. Now in React, it's not called HTML, it's actually JSX, but it looks like HTML. So I always like to think of it as my HTML, even though it's JSX technically, JavaScript. So I'll delete the stuff inside here. Cool. Now we have nothing there because I deleted all the stuff in there. We're importing this logo that we don't really need. We're importing the CSS. I'll delete all the CSS. And I want to include another library. However, I don't want to install it using npm. I want to use this simply. I want to use a CDN. So I go to my head tag, go to Bootstrap. This is Bootstrap is like by Twitter. It allows you to write it's a CSS styling kind of library. So you can add classes and it'll do styling based on the classes. So do the CSS, and then there's some JavaScript that goes along with it. I'll post that in my body. And we're pretty much good to go. Start writing some React. You don't need to do the Bootstrap, but I'm using it for simplicity reasons. Remove that. Okay. Nice job. Alright, I went ahead and just kind of coded everything. It's really hard for me to code at the same time and explain stuff because I'm kind of cut in three, you know, my focus is all cut up. So I went down the line, component. This is also, these two are also components, but I'll explain this as a component first. Props, state. Okay, so there's three things in React. So let's go to, I created a new folder called components. And here, I created navbar.js. And in here, you can see, let me delete this really quick, but we have our component, and you can type in, I'll save it for now, but I'll go back, RAFC, tab, and that'll give you your basic component. And inside this return, like a functional component, and inside arrow function, inside this component is where you put your, it looks like HTML, but it's actually called JSX. It's JavaScript. So when you use class, you should write class name instead of class so it doesn't get confused since it's JavaScript. Now component, it can only return one thing. So you can't have two divs, you can only have one div because it can only have one thing. Now let's go back to the navbar. Okay, you can see we have our navbar, our return statement, and this is very messy, but we have one nav tag that we created. That's our nav component. Now if you look here at class name again, class name, this is a Bootstrap navbar. Look here, I have the React router DOM. I wrote a quick little thing on there, but you can't, React, naturally it can only be one page, so you have to use the React router DOM to link to different pages. So the two, instead of 8 tags, you use link instead of 8 tags, and instead of href, it's 2. That's a quick little thing. If you want to look it up like React Router DOM, feel free. I think I have a link in the GitHub and on the page too. Anyway, let's go So you know what a component is, you kind of know how to do it by doing the, and how I'm doing this is I have this extension, ES7 snippets, and I create a basic component by doing REFC tab for an arrow function, RFC tab, RFC tab for function, okay, RFC tag, and then RCC for class paste. Okay, so you kind of understand components. You can build your own components, little snippets of JSX. Now we created, let's go to props now. It's this main thing. Let's see right here. You can do require, or the main way to do it here is import. That's how you do imports. You import the CSS. And // means current directory. So here's a class-based component. Yeah. So props. What are props? Props are external data. Now let's go to the app component. And you can see we imported the components in apps. We have our component inside the app, Navbar component inside the app. We have our main component. And here's the external data right here. I'm calling it title, text. You can call this whatever. You can call this like door handle, unicorn, whatever you want, title, text. But I called it title and text, and I set an equal to this string, external data. And these are the props, this external data right here. So if we go back to our main component, we're getting the props, const props equals this.props. So since this is a class, you need to use the this. If it were a functional component, you could just do props. And then props.title, props.title, props.text, which is what we called it up here, title and text. Yeah. So we can also do this, const title, const text, equals this.props. Wonder why it's doing that. We need to put this out here. Oh well, it's being kind of funny. What happened? Oh well, so props.title, we're accessing the title, props.text, we're accessing the text. And external data, you can see props. Okay, let's move on to state, internal data. Now with state, you typically need a constructor. So external data, and then you can see there's no external data here, it's all internal. You need to make it a class for the most part. There's a new thing called hooks, you can look it up if you want for functional components, but typically when doing state, you use class. So constructor, you can see we pass props in. Since it extends component, we call super to get all the methods from attributes from component, to get all the stuff from component. Since section extends component, to get the stuff from component, we call super. We have props, and then state, we set it inside the constructor. So this.state equals this object, this little object literal, background, true, we set a background to true, and then Ajax stuff, you can call this whatever, we set it to this empty array. Let's go down here. We have a return stuff, so the little JSX in here. If you want to include JavaScript inside the JSX, you do curly braces to add like little stuff you want. And you do I'm getting background and Ajax stuff from this.state. This is how I was trying to do it with the prop stuff. So this.state. So we're grabbing the background and Ajax stuff from this.state. See? We're passing it into here. So here we have a ternary operator. It's just an if-else statement pretty much. So if without the if-else, so background statement equals true, then we have this. If that's true, we're going to give it a class of purple. If not, we're going to give it a class of blue. So if we go to CSS, you can see purple, blue background, blue, purple, purple background, blue, blue background. Getting a little tired. So it sets the class based on the state. Now we have a button down here. So events in Java in React, you use the onClick or onSubmit or onInput or whatever on event. And then we have the curly braces, JavaScript expression. This dot change background. So this is the function you want to call this dot change background. So change background. We have a little method in here, change background. And when you want to change the state, you can't change the state. You have to use set state. You have to use this method. So this dot set state, we want to set, we have our object in here, and we want to get the background and set it to not what the background is. So if it's true, set it to false. If it's false, set it to true. So we're setting the state here. And you'll notice we have this up here, this dot change background equals this dot change background that bind to this. And so if you want to write custom methods, your own methods, not this component did mount, this thing is a part of React. If you want to write your own stuff, naturally this, when it's in the JSX, it refers to the button. We want it to refer to the class we created. So inside here, we do this dot change background dot bind to this. We want to bind change background to this class, not to the button. Okay, so you need to include it inside the constructor with your own custom methods. See here. Now, what did we do next? We did this component did mount. Now, component did mount, I made it async. It doesn't have to be asynchronous. Component did mount. It just means like once your components are put on the web page, do this. So I made it async because I wanted to fetch data from this API or backend. So we're fetching data from here. I think you remember this from JavaScript. You can try catch. We'll try this. If it doesn't work, we'll do this. So we're getting our data, and then we're setting our state to the data that we get. Set state, check stuff from empty array to data. And then here we have a curly expression because we want to write JavaScript inside of our JSX, the HTML looking stuff. It's not actually HTML. So ajax stuff.map. This is a method that you can do on arrays. That it's pretty much like a for loop on an array, and it goes through everything. JSON placeholder, and I'll show you how the JSON stuff looks. Okay, so we're getting, when we're doing map, it's like a for loop, or a while it goes through everything. All of the stuff in the array here, it's an array, and then we're getting data, each thing. So we're setting a key. When you're mapping stuff in React, you typically need a key. So React remembers kind of what's going on. It gets kind of confused. So you have a key. We set it to the ID. See? Set it to the ID. Data, it's an array. So we're getting the ID. And H1 data, it's an array. So we're doing the title. And it renders out. And that's our state. It's state. So hopefully you understand that. The three things: props, state, components, three main parts of React. Nice job.